The walls between these industries are falling down, and that's a very good HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Begley, and today I'm joined by Bethany Sowinski and Nate Natale from the Building Performance Association. We're talking conference history, industry evolution, and how this thing started way back in 1986, and why BPA's event has become one of the real educational heavy hitters in the building performance world. This one is for you. Let's roll. Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of the HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Begley. I'm here today with Bethany Sowinski and Nate Natale of the BPA, Building Performance Association. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming conference and the history of it, how I got involved, how they got involved, and a bunch of good stuff. So I'll let them introduce themselves and then we'll jump into it. Bethany, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bethany Sowinski. I'm Director of Education and Events with the Building Performance Association.
I'm Nate Natale. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Building Performance Association. Good to be with you, Jeremy.
Hey, good to have you both. So tell me a little bit about each of you, how you got involved with the organization, how long you've been there, what your history is with it. Just take us through it. Like, what do you know that we don't know?
I could start since I've been here just a little bit longer than Bethany. She was my very first hire and has been with me ever since. I've been here just over 15 years. I was in education, adult ed. I was a teacher, got into adult education, got into association work around professional development for adult learners. And the organization I was with just didn't really align with a lot of my sort of values and just what I wanted to be doing. In general, I'd never heard of home performance at all, even though this conference started in my backyard, almost quite literally up over the hill. And came across this job, basically coming in to support the person who was doing what Bethany does now, and just sort of worked my way up. We had a bunch of different turnover. Our organization has changed names. We're now on our third iteration since Bethany and I have been here. ACI, Affordable Comfort, to the Home Performance Coalition, and now Building Performance Association. So we've seen a lot of change and in the industry as well as in our association organizations. Except for us, we've been here through a whole bunch. So yeah, it's a little bit about how I got here.
And Bethany?
Yeah, kind of similarly to Nate, I wasn't aware of the industry too much, but I had been working towards a sustainability degree, and there was a lot of overlap in what we were learning at my program and energy efficiency and energy reduction efforts. So when I first started, I learned a whole lot about the industry. It was first based in Pittsburgh here, which is where I got my degree, my sustainability degree. But now we're a national company, national organization. So we have folks all over the country, not just here in Pittsburgh. So good to be here.
And what, just so the audience knows, what was the first year the conference actually happened? Like when did it was first ACI, right? That was the first name of it. And what was the first year the ACI conference was put on?
Yeah, that was the Affordable Comfort Conference. So it was a conference before ACI. ACI was the organization that formed just 10 years later or so. But yeah, it was 1986 was the first year. So this is our 40th anniversary this year.
40th. And you guys got involved in what year, roughly?
2011 was my first one, and I believe Bethany 2012 was yours.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And by that time, were they calling it ACI?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So 2012, that's the first time I ever attended the conference, was Baltimore, correct? That was a Baltimore conference. Yeah. And it was, yeah. And I never knew. I was in the industry, but I did not know about the conference until I got on Twitter and I was interacting with, other people. And actually what got me out there was Peter Trost from Energy Circle was doing a roundtable on marketing, and him and I had interacted on Twitter. We had never met. That's the first time we ever met in real life too, was at that conference as well, but we had never met. And he's like, hey, I had a website up. We had Cincinnati Energy Solutions was our company at the time. And he said, hey, why don't you pretty good at marketing. You're on Twitter all the time. Why don't you come out here and talk about it? And then, so I ended up attending and presenting the very first time I ever even knew the thing existed. So it was quite the experience for me.
Throwing you into it.
Threw me into the fire. Yep, exactly. But it was a cool fire to be in. I met, when you first go to these things, this is one of the cool pieces of it, I think, for anybody, is some people are a little bit celebrities, in the industry. They're bigger names. You see them, you interact with them all the time. And then you can go to these type of events. And not only is there great knowledge base, because I've always said this conference, I compare them, I won't throw out names, but there's other industry conferences that I've been to, and some of them are what I call full of fluff a lot more, because a lot of times sponsors can pay to do sessions and stuff like that. But from my experience at this conference, it's always been highly educational. I never went into a session that I didn't leave with something valuable. And I also never went into a conference or a session and came out of it, man, I can't believe they let that guy up there, which has happened at some of the other conferences where people pay to get up there and just talk about a product the entire time instead of bringing any real knowledge. So I do value that about the way that this actual conference is ran. So take us, do you guys know from the transition, when did it stop being affordable comfort? When did it become ACI? When did it become BPA? What prompted those name changes? Do you guys have any insight into that little bit of history there?
Yeah, for sure. So when ACI became the Home Performance Coalition, basically our industry had all of the different pieces of traditional trade or industry association as separate entities. You had BPI, you had, doing credentials. You had ACI doing, conference and education. You had Home Energy Magazine. You had even NHPC, which is who we merged with, which was a sort of advocacy group. And that's kind of evolved into our advocacy work that we do now, including their founder as our chief policy officer. So there's just a big hunger is pushed, by funders, really. Hey, we can't give all y'all money all the time. It would be better if you came together with one ask. So the NHPC transition around 2016 would have been the first one. And then in 2019, we became Building Performance Association. And additionally, I neglected to mention efficiency first.
Oh, yeah.
Some of your listeners might remember.
I was on the board for a while there. Yeah. That is a good one to bring up for sure. They were straight policy, but it definitely played into everything for sure. Yeah.
Very good one.
Tell us the sort of the hierarchy of how that's all set up.
Yeah. So, we have publication, which has sort of become our, an e-version of what Home Energy Magazine was, sort of but more timely. That was more of a periodical type publication. We have, a big advocacy policy side to our organization now, which was the NHPC part. Obviously, the member component is what Efficiency First did. So we have all those pieces under Building Performance Association, including the education and conference work that ACI, started. And then BPI remains separate, with the credentials and such. So sort of have that firewall, which is probably a good thing. We align really well, and they're great to work with and provide their CEUs at all of our events and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's where we are now.
So so we sort of talked about where the conference came from, and it continues to evolve. So how do you guys see it fitting into today's world, today's landscape, the industry landscape, interacting with, the new construction world and everything else? How does BPA fit in today?
Yeah, I think we keep evolving. It's what's our history, and I think will be our future to adapt to what the contractors need and want. And we focus mostly on existing residential buildings with some multifamily in there as well, and small commercial. And I think it's probably, you mentioned that your first conference was in 2012, talking about marketing. And, if you look back at that session, what you talked about that you needed to know about marketing then is probably completely different than the marketing landscape now. And, we're bringing in more discussions of AI and how that can impact the industry and businesses and operational efficiency and things like that. And then also, just different diagnostic equipment that has been developed that, you can learn more about, and things, virtual audits, and, all the changes that you just need to know. Workforce issues that continue to change as we need to bring more people, into the trades and educate people about the industry that exists and the importance of, house as a system within other trades. Like you said, getting to know the HVAC industry and the home performance industry, building performance industry, and how they can overlap and intersect to kind of both bring more to the forefront and help people run their businesses a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up our conversation earlier about the HVAC industry. I do feel this is the time for the HVAC industry and home performance to sort of come together in a way that they never have before. There's a lot of new interest from the HVAC side, from the younger technicians that are really getting into the geeking, what we call the geeking out side of HVAC, where they're really trying to understand what they're doing in a way that techs didn't before. And the owners are sort of from our generation now a little bit. There's a little bit of aging out going on. So they're allowing a little more leeway for these younger guys to sort of explore some of this stuff instead of just turn and burn boxes all the time. And I think the public's demanding it a little bit more now. We have a more educated public with the internet and AI the way it is. You could ask AI anything, and whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, you're going to have 10 things to say to somebody when they walk in your house. So these guys really got to be up on what is right and what's wrong, because if not, they're going to have a hard time having conversations with some of these homeowners. So I think all that stuff, and we talked about private equity now has more eyes and more money on HVAC. So they're looking for new ways to grow those revenue streams there too that are inside the HVAC industry. So all that stuff plays well for home performance, and it has a lot of the younger HVAC eyes on home performance. And I think that this conference really is going to bloom in the next few years and grow into sort of, a secondary housing for the HVAC guys. They have some of their own conferences, and they have the HVAC school building, let me say this right, HVAC school symposium, training symposium that Brian Orr puts on every year. That is sort of I always liken it to sort of Joe Stiebrick's building science camp for the HVAC industry. It's a high-end conference with a nice trade show and stuff like that, but they don't have the history or the ability as far as reach and funding and stuff that you guys do to be able to really put on the type of education, pure home performance with HVAC built into it, training symposiums or training sessions, I should say, that the home performance, the BPA, ACI, that conference has been able to bring over the years. So I'm really excited for the future of this particular conference.
I'm sorry, Bethany, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. The HVAC contracting business, not if you will, is one we've been trying to crack for quite a while. Just knowing the opportunity that's there, for home performance, for, building science principles being incorporated into that work, trying to get the word out that we could be a professional home for those folks who are looking to maybe take it to the next level and, get out of the box swapping or however you want to put it. It's been a challenge because, just to penetrate that space it's tough. So we love being on here. We love being able to talk about it. We're at a time too where we're sort of doubling down a bit on letting our traditional contractor base, which are the home performance contracting businesses, which, just making sure they know that their professional home is at our conference. We have this delicate balance. We have a huge amount of weatherization agency folks who attend. Building science is building science, but at the same time, I think the contractors looking for just more support on their business development and that sort of thing, and they're just looking for more of that from us. And so we're working on some things that we hope will also translate to HVAC companies, being, okay, they have all this good technical information, but they're also supporting businesses. So hopefully, we make some progress there.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the business model. And I think that right now there's probably a few different business models out there in the HVAC space that incorporate home performance that have not been there previously. There are some very boutique contractors that not only are very proficient and high end on the HVAC side as far as just using technology to the fullest advantage and understanding inverters and stuff like that, but then they're also turning themselves into little home performance gurus who understand the home side of it too. And that's a boutique offering that's out there. Then you have the HVAC company that has added the guy that I just described is usually one guy that, is doing very specific services for people under his own umbrella. And they, maybe are a little science project-y type projects, but nonetheless, very, very high-end, high-performance projects that may not go on in a typical my air's out situation. These are people that want their house to work a certain way and they're paying somebody to come in and make that happen for them. And there's usually that business model is, hey, I'm this guy that can do this type of service and only this type of service for you. And that's what I specialize in. Then there is the HVAC companies that have trucks on the road and they're doing typical HVAC service and they're doing full replacement and they're doing new construction, but they also want to be able to serve the clients that want to be served a little bit better and have some guys in their shop that do have a full understanding of home performance and allow those particular guys to use it, even though that's not the focus of their business. And then there's the other guys who they're a big shop and they're what we called it back in the day, home performance contractors. They are that model where it's HVAC centric, but home performance. Quick heads up for anyone in the HVAC, home performance, or building science world. The 2026 National Home Performance Conference and Trade Show from the Building Performance Association is coming up. And if you're serious about where the industry is going, electrification, IAQ, permanent load reduction, building science, any of it, all of it, this is one of the events where those conversations actually happen. You'll see contractors, manufacturers, program folks, and trainers all in one place talking about what's working in the field and where the industry is headed next. If you want to check it out, we've got a special contractor rate just for HVAC ADHD listeners who are new to the conference. You can register for $825, which is $250 off the normal registration. Just go to nhpc26.org/HVAC-ADHD and use the code NHPC-HVVOD when you register. And if you end up going, come find us. We'll actually be recording some HVAC ADHD episodes on the conference floor. Contracting is the way they do business. So there's a wide range out there, and it's probably even some other steps in between that I have not, I didn't touch on. But in my mind, those are the three different operators right now. And I don't think we had as much of that in the home performance space back when I was actively involved running a home performance company. It was there was friction in the industry. The HVAC guys are on this side. Home performance was on this side. These ideas could not intermingle with these ideas. And if you were doing something that had the word home performance in it, a lot of the guys ran the other way. And then, the Obama era sort of killed some of that because there was so much money getting dumped into home performance that a lot of the HVAC guys had no choice but to participate. So then that opened it up to the HVAC industry on that side of things a little more. And I think some of that has trickled down also into where we are now. So I say all that to say, I think we're in a good space for home performance and HVAC to have a natural marriage with technology and private equity money and everything that is driving it toward those two industries towards each other. And it's the science behind it. The house has always been the house. It's a whole house and all the stuff interacts. So as soon as guys have aha moments out in the field, they're never going to be able to unknow that stuff, So as long as they keep learning, they're going to understand either by accident or on purpose what is actually going on in a home. So, yeah, I got on a soapbox there, but I'm passionate about the HVAC. I'm excited. Let me say this. I'm excited about where the HVAC world is and the home performance world is right now, because it's something we've worked myself and several other people in the industry have really worked hard to sort of bring that together. And it's just really nice to see it actually happening now on a scale that I didn't really ever think would be possible.
Sure. And, when we look at what we think of our most successful contractors, a lot of them in our orbit, if you will, they are HVAC contractors who've incorporated the whole house approach. And so we see that model, and you mentioned that was the third option, or when you were talking, that's the ideal, because you're in the homes, you have service agreements, you're trusted. It's just ideal. You have the business infrastructure, and then this opportunity, the whole house opportunity, allows for new business lines, and then we've seen some companies like Halco in upstate New York. They're just start out HVAC, and they do everything you can possibly imagine. All of it based in the whole house approach, every renewable, every service you can think of in a house. And, companies that are a great model. We just need the opportunity to put those in front of more HVAC businesses.
I think that type of company is going to become more organic. I really do. It used to be, hey, that's the standout. Halco's a standout. Everybody uses them for the example of what you can do with HVAC and home performance. And those guys have owned it in a way that not a lot of HVAC companies chose to do. And I think that now, with the interest that we have from the ground up, you're just going to see companies that get started. They're just going to be that. And then the one thing we haven't talked about is the heat pump and the electrification side of it. That push in itself lends itself to home performance, because, my God, if you're putting a heat pump on a bad house, I feel sorry for the rest of your existence owning that customer, because it's going to be a bad time. So there's just a lot of great stuff pushing it that way right now. And I think, this conference is just one piece that can really serve this industry in a way that it maybe hasn't before.
Yeah, and I think what's great about the conference and some of the sessions is that some of the sessions are led by contractors who are really open about sharing their journeys of adding business lines, what's failed. So when they made mistakes, maybe they should have done something differently, so that somebody else can learn from what they experienced. And it's not really, they don't hold too many cards close to their chest, so to speak. They're open with sharing what's worked and what hasn't. It's, just trying to help everyone else succeed too. And so it's a really great opportunity to hear, what Halco did that worked, and they'll tell you what didn't, and maybe have some shared commiseration over some failures. But it's kind of refreshing that the contractors are so open and talking about that in their business models.
It's super important for the growth of other companies to hear that stuff from those guys firsthand. There's no better lesson than what somebody else did and why it worked or why it didn't work. And if people are willing to share that, then that is a gold that you cannot get just out in the street talking to somebody, or, even from your own experience. Sometimes somebody's going to went through something slightly different than the way you went through it. And you might have a little aha moment of your own where you're, wow, I never thought about doing it that way, and that might work, and we're going to go back and fix that. So yeah, I agree. That is one of the awesome things about having this type of conference led by contractors that can get up there and share their real world experiences and knowledges, for sure. All right. Well, we're running up on our time. So you got any parting thoughts? I usually, in my sessions, I say, hey, if the world ended today and you had to leave behind one piece of advice for people who are restarting society, what would you paint on the wall? So I'll throw that out there to you guys. It could be home performance. It could be your own personal philosophy. It could be anything, but I've never ended a session without asking that question. So I'm going to throw it out there for you as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd say, we learned a lot of things post-COVID, but being able to gather people together is a huge gift for us now. And I think conferences are a great way to do that. And obviously, education is really important to moving yourself forward as a human being, but also, home performance wise, HVAC wise, as a company. So to take those opportunities to convene and network and hang out with your friends, meet new people, and learn from their experiences. And, I don't think we can take that for granted after COVID. So we're happy to be able to gather everyone again.
1000% agree. Super powerful. Thank you.
Heck of an answer, Bethany. Yeah. I mean, that's, the part about getting together, I riff on that a second. When COVID happened and we had 2 virtual conferences. And we had to stand the one up, the first one, so quickly, and it was just so chaotic, and it worked. I mean, thank goodness it worked. We're still here because, it wasn't a guarantee in those days. And, there was coming out of there was such a emphasis on the virtual option, having, there has to be a component every time people get together. And, we thought that at first too. And then we started to realize that, people just need to get together. It's instinctual,
Yep.
We crave community, we crave camaraderie. So in the business of gathering people, that's going to not go away. And in fact, we've come to realize that even a virtual component of something in person sort of pulls away from both. It pulls, there is a place for virtual learning. I'm a big proponent of it. But I think those things are best when they're their own things. So it's so great to be able to be a convener. We love that part of our jobs. And also, if I'm going to restart society, I'm going to, being from Pittsburgh, I'm going to riff on Mr. Rogers a little bit and talk about the three things that are, lead to success: kindness, kindness, and kindness.
100%. Love it. All right. Thank you, guys. We're going to try to roll this episode out here very shortly. In the next few days, we're going to edit it down and then get it out bottom of this week, top of next week. So I'm excited to get it out there in front of people. And I thank you both very much for joining us today and telling everybody the history of the conference. And hopefully we can get some more people attending.
Thank
Awesome.
you. And Jeremy, we didn't get an opportunity to talk about your session that you'll be doing at the conference, if you would to discuss that. And we'll also be having some podcast sessions just this. So kind of a modern day fireside chat where you can be live in the room with others when they're doing their podcasts. So
true. We should have brought that stuff up. Yeah. So I'm doing first off, the podcast thing is huge. I love it. This is one of my favorite things that you guys are doing. So other conferences have done it. It's not a new concept, but it is awesome that you guys are being able to incorporate it into your conference. And I'm excited to have HVAC ADHD Vodcast be one of the inaugural podcasters. And the session I'm trying to do for that, I need to get it together, but I'm trying to get one attendee, that HVAC contractor that has went to the conference for a long time, and then with someone who's new, to sit down and sort of talk. What do you want out of the conference? What do you usually get out of it? Back and forth. That's from an HVAC, pure HVAC perspective. So that's what we're trying to do for the podcast session. If you guys have any guests that you would want to throw my way that hey, these people are attending, they might be great, I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to wrangle up a few people that'll be there for that conversation. The session that I'm doing is permanent load reduction, the hidden driver of HVAC sales. And this is based on, we have a training that we do. It's an 8-hour training. It's called Permanent Load Reduction Through the Eyes of Conduit Tech, or Through the Eyes of LiDAR Technology. If you're using Ampli or something like that, I've always used Conduit Tech. I'm super friendly with those guys and helped them a little bit in the beginning. So we sort of branded with that. But there's other softwares coming online. There's one called Ampli. There's one called CoolCalcs it's been around for a while as an online software, but they're adding LiDAR to that, I heard. So there's a few of them now that have the technology available. But the ideal is to be able to use as we talked about a little earlier, to be able to use the load calculation as a roadmap to create exposing thermal deficiency of the home. And then being able to add those into your pure cells if you want to, or make a commission off of having somebody else come back and do the measures. And then B, being able to drive your own sales and your own KPIs from a general sense, using the home performance KPIs as drivers for those. And so that's really the main part of the conversation is, how does that affect the business that you already do? If you start doing these things, how does it help this business that you already have? How does it amplify that? And how does it help you make more money with the stuff that you already have? So that's really what we're trying to get across to people, as well as the fact that we're in a world where it doesn't take too much to add this stuff on. Now's the time to start adding it into your business workflows, because it does not add that much, and the value add for your company is tremendous. So that's sort of the gist of what we are going to be talking about there.
Yeah, we're excited for it, and hopefully your listeners will come out and hear you in person in Columbus in April.
I'm hoping so too. We're going to keep talking to them about it, and hopefully we get some of them. I think Katie was saying a couple of people have used the code already, so we will flash the discount code up on the screen here for you guys, and it'll be in the show notes, and it already is in the notes of other videos that we've made to promote it. So, or if you know me, inbox me, I'll give you the code. Either way, you can get it from me, and you can get a healthy, the biggest discount out there they're allowing us to offer through this podcast. So definitely take advantage of it.
And that's, the whole idea around that rate. And I was talking earlier about making an effort, doubling down to contractors to say, come check us out. That's what this is all about. And certainly the HVAC contractors in your audience are the ones,
Absolutely.
We believe they're gonna be the ones that help scale this thing. So
I believe it too. I 100% believe it. All right. So really, I'll see you guys later this time. Bethany, thank you very much for bringing that. It was super important to get that in. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you. Great conversation.
If that random Mr. Rogers thing doesn't fit, feel free to cut.
No, it'll fit. We'll fit it.
I was thinking about society and starting society over, and we gotta be.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. That's why we do it. Everybody's advice is counts and is great. You go back and listen to some of the podcasts, people say some cool stuff when you put them on the spot. So
yeah,
it's a pretty cool little concept.
We didn't get to talk about how we were in a fantasy football league together one time.
We were. Peter's, the one with Peter and all those guys.
Yeah.
It went on for a few years. I mean, we did that thing for a while, and then I don't know what happened. It fell apart, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good times, though, back then.
Yeah.
The industry was a different place at that time.
Mm-hmm.
For
sure.
sure.
Like my second time ever playing fantasy football, I believe. So
I'm trying to put together a Twitter roundtable of all the people that started in home performance that were on Twitter. So I'm trying to do a session with me, Peter, Allison, Carl Seville, and a few other people that were around in the Twitter days, because that's where we all met at. And that's where really I started learning home performance. There was Twitter groups and about specific topics and building performance and stuff like that. And then it sort of migrated to LinkedIn, and that whole community was in the BPA ResNet group that Dave Butler ran. And now it's just out in LinkedIn, so
yeah. We actually brought that group in. We had a home performance forum.
I was on there for a while, just never really took off. The LinkedIn group did. There was not the same interaction. I mean, there are some, even to this day, I think there's some people on there talking, home performance or whatever, but it just never turned in. I think that community mostly lives on LinkedIn now, to be honest with you. That's where everybody's interacting these days, just out in the public space of LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was one of those things, trying to pull these forms together, but they were just the organic nature of where they were at first were just better, Yeah,
that just is where people go. That is what it's all about. If you build it, they will come, to a certain extent. If they were going to go there already, they're going to come. But if they're not headed that direction, you might have an empty building. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
So,
correct.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys go. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll see you in your home state of Ohio.
Indeed. That is another exciting thing I should have brought up is, hey, it's in Ohio, and that's one thing that I'm super excited. I was telling Katie, it's never been that close to Cincinnati before. Too bad I don't live there anymore, because I'm in Knoxville now. But
okay.
For the past 5 years, I've been in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
But
I would be headed to Cincinnati from Columbus, because my daughter has a soccer tournament there, so I was going to mention maybe. But you're in Knoxville, Vegas.
Yep, Knox Vegas. Well, that's Nash Vegas, buddy. Nashville is
I used to have a shirt. I used to have a Knox Vegas shirt that I got at a UT Georgia game back.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's
they
like
might have
Knox
called
Vegas.
It. For a minute,
but Nashville, they're getting ready to get a spear.
I saw that.
The baby spear. They're really trying to be Vegas. Well, now they need gambling, and it'll be all there.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, they're on their way. More cranes, more construction cranes.
Exactly.
They burned to Tennessee.
Yeah. All right, guys, take it easy. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Bye.